Thank you for inviting me.
It's really crazy that you're here. The first time we interacted was me sending you a message.
On
If I can,
Facebook.
yeah, on Facebook. If I can be in your apartment while you sublet.
Yeah, Berlin.
It was difficult. I did not get the apartment in the end.
No, I'm sorry. We decided for someone else.
Yes. But what I did get in return was beautiful voice messages. And this is how I was start to be curious about your energy and who you are. And then I dove into your social medias profiles, and I saw that you also play music, and you also were singing there in some videos. And I thought, it will be interesting. I can invite you here. It will be nice. You can speak about yourself, about what you do, and you can maybe play some songs if you feel like in the end. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, first of all, right now I'm sensing a little bit of excitement and like my hands are a little bit sweaty and I'm sitting here and hoping that the right words will find its way. Yeah, I'm a I would say musician at heart and healer in my body, and I would like to bring both of these into the world, into creating authentic and vulnerable spaces where people can just be who they are, like in this podcast, for example, and explore their inner world while being in connection with community, music, and sometimes I also use cacao as a medicine to support us, like raw cacao, ceremonial cacao. And yeah, other tools like circling, which is a form of meditation in connection with other beings, and breathwork. Yeah, so this is where I really feel passionate about to bring into the world. And sometimes I play music during, or I often use my voice actually to support and channel the energies that are in the ceremony and in the space, supporting the processes of the individuals.
It's very important to channel some energies while some intense processes are happening.
What makes you say that?
I've been through intense processes. Some of them were with LSD, some of them with mushrooms, some of them with both of them together. And it also depends on the people around, I would say. It can be more intense and less intense. And I also play music, so it's something that I do it for most of my life since I was 13 or 12, something like that. So somehow I managed to grow up with music by my side, and every time I needed to express something emotionally and I did not had my human way to express it, I would just go to the guitar and I would express it through there. And when I had really intense times under the influence of the psychedelics, then the guitar and my voice could somehow focus me, and then the energy would be easier to handle.
That's such an important point. Yeah. Did you still want to say something?
No, no, not really.
No. I do really agree with that music can be a very powerful tool to channel emotions, and it's so beautiful if you can do that, and that you can play an instrument to a certain degree where you have this feeling of like, oh, I can actually not think about the technique anymore, or not think about like which fingers I have to put where, or depending on what instrument you're using, but like just go into flow
Yeah.
and connect with your inner state and let that go out and let it out. Yeah, so basically that's what I'm doing as well in my ceremonies, is like, since yeah, I would say I am a very empathic person, so I do feel almost all of the energies and emotions around me. And so I open myself up to the room, to the people, and I let that go through my body, into my voice, out of my mouth, into vibrations. And I feel like it really helps moving. And in a way, it's like a feedback loop as well. Like if I feel what you're feeling right now and I am kind of channeling it through voice or movement, and you see it or you feel it or you hear it, it's like a deep recognition of, oh yeah, maybe that's what I'm feeling. Maybe I can resonate with that. And through this, maybe finding acceptance or self knowledge by me mirroring or channeling what's in the field.
Yeah, the channeling is very, very interesting thing. And just you saying those stuff made me understand that you're a very sensitive person if you can sense those energies. And how do you approach it when you are in the state of now you feel like you're in charge, I would say, of the group or something? And then you feel it's difficult to explain feelings, but what do you do in your body, or what kind of thoughts do you bring into your head into channeling what this I think it's basically providing them something they need at the moment, and you choose to do it through your voice. And maybe, yeah, I don't know so much about it, so I can just think about it a lot. But how do you really go through that? What is your mental process?
You're interested in how I go into that state, or what the process looks like.
How do you feel all those people who are right there, very vulnerable? How do you know what to do, which is the right thing? It's very sensitive spot.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very juicy question. So first of all, I think it's really the connection to my authentic self and what I am experiencing in my body. Because if I'm not in touch with myself, how can I be in touch with other people? How can I say, like, oh, I'm not just projecting stuff, like maybe fears or things that I don't want to see in myself, and then like projecting it into the outside? So I think a lot of times it's like being able to discern what's happening inside of me and what am I picking up from my environment. Saying this, I'm not sure if it's 100% like this because it's a very intuitive thing as well. And what I can say is the connection to my body, to my senses, to this moment. So I think it's the exercise of allowing to be touched by what's happening outside of me and seeing where maybe things are not moving or feeling stuckness, and then going with the attention to these places and moving them. I think where attention goes, energy
Yeah.
flows, right? So it's like becoming aware of as much as possible and letting my curiosity lead me to, oh, maybe there's something in my left arm, so I feel into it. And since I'm connected to the field, maybe it's something that's happening in the field, and allowing myself to really feel it. And also, if there's like fear or like anxiety, and then being like, oh, where can I feel the anxiety or the fear in my body? And then like moving it through attention, and just opening the mouth and be like letting a sound out. Yeah. It's like connecting to what is, connecting to how it feels in my body and connecting it through singing and movement.
It sounds complex to me, but
Yeah.
I would say also to drive a car, it's very complex task
Right.
to do, and we do it very easily. How long are you doing this for, those ceremonies?
I think I started 2019, so like 3, 4 years, something. But back then, it was really intuitive. Like I had not so many tools as I have today. Um, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily worse because I didn't know the tools, but maybe there was some quality to it of like, oh, it's actually purely intuition, like pure from the intuition. But having a mind is actually great because you can like put things together and work together hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the mind is your servant and not vice versa.
Yeah, or your friend.
Or your friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the mind can be a friend. It's tricky when it's a friend. Start telling you stuff that you like. Sometimes it's tricky. I don't know if to trust my mind as a friend.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, your friend can be telling you shit as well. And you would still be able to be like, yeah, maybe this is what you believe, but in my heart, it feels different.
Yeah, the feeling and the mind, like those two are, they can work together, but they can regulate each other sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I think the mind, when it's been comfortable, it's been very dangerous. And then sometimes the feelings, because the mind, in my experience in life, the mind is more loud than the feelings. And I'm thinking because of that, sometimes I just tend to ignore my feelings and go with whatever my mind says. If it's something comfy that I would like to hear at the moment.
Ah, like tricking yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always like that. It can be, oh, I did something like this. Now I deserve something sweet to eat. You know, it
Ah,
can be very tricky. It's like, oh, I worked for 5 days in straight. Now I need a full day of recovery.
maybe it's true.
Maybe it's true.
Sounds quite true to me. If I would work 5 days in a row, even after 2 days, I'll be like, I need rest.
But sometimes it depends if the rest is needed. Sometimes the rest is I cannot rest.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Like, I have a friend who's like saying, "Oh, I need to eat this or I need to be doing this to feel good." But I feel like it's yeah. I've also told them like it feels like you're rationally determining what's right for you. Are you really feeling what's right for you as well? So that sounds a bit like yeah, the mind knows what's good, but is it actually good for us?
Yeah, and I think more into the realm of pain and suffering. It's something that sometimes the mind can trick us not to go there, but sometimes this is the right place for us to be. I believe I'm a great believer in pain and suffering. And not in a way that, come on, make me suffer. But I believe that this is, life by default is painful and suffering. Life is not pleasant.
Ooh,
From the birth itself, it's not pleasant. And then all the process. Sometimes we have moments where everything is beautiful and we really enjoy life. And if we're really smart, we can make our life really comfortable for us and we can enjoy what we want to do in our life. But most of the time, even if everything is really on point, life is not so good and life is painful and life brings us a lot of challenges and suffering and unpleasant sensations.
yeah.
And in those moments, sometimes, most of the times, instead of just breaking down and saying it's like that, the counterintuitive would be keep on going. And sometimes I have this where I just don't want to keep going, but I know I need to keep going.
So which part of you is like I don't want to keep going, and which part of you is like I need to keep going?
The immediately presence of myself wants to stop.
The presence of yourself.
The immediate presence, like I would say the next day, the next hours.
Okay.
But I have another me who
Oh,
is
oh, okay, I
looks
understand.
a bit further and he says,
Yeah.
all right, in 2 3 years, if you keep on doing that, you're gonna be in a different spot.
Yeah, like the immediate gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the child who could
The
have a
child.
bigger
Yeah.
surprise or some sweet if they wait until the next round. There was this experiment, right, where they gave sweets to children and
Yeah.
they were like, okay, if you eat it now, this is over. But if you don't eat it and you wait 5 more minutes, you get a different, bigger thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure if I'm wrong, but I think that also they kept on being in touch with those kids, and they also kept on researching them a bit further in life. And those kids who could not wait,
Wait.
they
Yeah.
had less success in their life.
Less success. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
success means they did not achieve what they wanted to achieve because they could not wait. Yeah.
So it's like enduring and being resilient in order to have a longer, yeah, long term success, let's say it like that.
Yeah, something like that to keep seeing the big picture.
I mean, in a way, it is like this. It's like when you learn an instrument, right? And you immediately stop as soon as it gets a bit difficult. This is actually like the point where you would like reach the next stage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like pushing through that next stage, you get into the next level.
Yeah, I think it's also the point where it gets boring. This is the point to push through. Sometimes it gets boring. Like, how much can you practice the same scale on a guitar or a piano?
Yeah.
But part of grinding it and doing it again and again and again, that's what makes the playing effortless in the end.
Yeah. I find this topic quite multi-layered as well. Because nowadays I I do see the values in like pushing through and like sticking to it, and there's also a part of me that's like, well, I think in our society there is a lot of that energy and a lot of pressure of being successful, or like the way that society defines it. And in order to do that, you need to suffer. It's like I grew up with this. I was like, oh yeah, you need to suffer now in order to be happy afterwards. And nowadays I'm like, do I? Like, do I really need to suffer? Or can I find something that actually is so intriguing for me that I just want to keep doing? And even if it gets hard, it's not suffering, it's excitement. It's like, oh, it's hard, it's a challenge. I want to do it because I want to fucking like get better at it because it's
Yeah,
just so intriguing, right?
that's the mindset.
Yeah.
And this is different. I think everything is the same in life. It's just different skins or different avatars. So if I'm playing guitar, I love guitar. Maybe I'm thinking about Slash. I'm thinking about Jimmy Page. I'm thinking about Eddie Van Halen. Just being on stage and all the light and the attention is on me. But usually it's not most what they do most of their time. Most of the time they sit down, they practice scales, they practice for hours, they just play. And this
Yeah.
is not the sexy part of it. And as much as anyone can love guitar, I think there is a place where it's like, all right, this is too much for me. And then this is your choice if you just stop there or if you go through that. And if you see it as a challenge, like you see it, I think this is where everything changes. And also would like to refine a little bit more about the suffering. I don't believe that we need to suffer intentionally. However, suffering is coming anyway. And I think once we switch our mind and we think about every problem or every little pain that we feel as a challenge, and we get curious about it, and we get more, maybe more resourceful about it, then life can change immensely. And then somehow the pain and the suffering becomes kind of an ally. Because then they come, and instead of saying, "Oh, fuck you, go away from me, I don't want to suffer, I don't want to feel pain," then you think, "Oh, a new challenge,
Yeah.
another opportunity to grow."
Yeah. So it's like you stop resisting difficult things. You stop resisting pain. And instead you stay present and you lean into it and you see maybe what it can actually gift you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's less painful or less suffering. It doesn't make it more fun to do it.
At least you're not fighting against it
Yeah,
anymore, right?
everything is more relaxed
Yeah.
around it. And it's
Yeah.
different when you go there intense, like, I don't want to do it. But then it's like, oh, I'm going to suffer now. Okay, let's go for it.
Yeah, it's like surrendering.
Yeah. This is very important to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest skills to have if you want to have a ceremony, and if you want to be able to have space, to have all the people that you're facilitating at the moment, to surrender to the moment. We do it a lot. It's the surrendering.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know.
It's just as you say, like the less we fight against what is present here now, the more easy it is to handle the suffering. And I think the suffering is created by us not being okay with what is. Because I think I'm not okay the way I am right now, or you are not okay the way you are right now. And this is what is creating pain. And you were referring to the ceremonies. I've made really interesting experiences. Like, I just had a ceremony 2 days ago, and so it was like a group of new people, and there's always like this, I don't know, like slight anxiety around or tension, and like also maybe anxiousness about like the unknowingness. Like, I think also for me, unknowingness is like one of the things that I mostly want to escape. You know, if I don't know
The
what's going to
darkness.
happen, it's like, oh my god. But once we did an exercise where you go into connection with each other and you share what's there, and you make conscious and you bring it to the light what is there, everything in the room just relaxed.
Yeah.
It's like I relaxed because, I sense what's happening, but then everyone goes into connection and you are seen in your whatever state you are in, and you feel seen, you feel heard. And it's like our nervous system's just,
Yeah, we know that stuff. We know it subconsciously. When it's there, we feel it. When it's tense, we feel it also. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we think, oh, it's just how it is. Sometimes it might be some thoughts that we just think and we don't think about it. It's very interesting.
So I think because we were talking about the mind earlier as well, or like more like the thinking mind, is like we can just as much resist our thoughts, and that's what's creating the pain. Because maybe our thoughts are like, oh, you're doing so bad right now, or you should be careful. I don't know, like really things that we don't want to hear. And then we're like, okay, I'm trying to like, I think I've had a long time in my life when I started meditating, I was like, okay, I shouldn't have thoughts. Or like maybe even like going into this, I create my reality by thinking and feeling, of course. But like, I was like, oh, I shouldn't have these thoughts. Like, this thought is dangerous to have because if I'm thinking this, it might just turn into reality. So I was resisting my thoughts, and that was like subconsciously, I was like ignoring them, like, okay, no, I'm not having these thoughts. But actually, what happens is I keep having these thoughts, but they're like in the shadow.
Yes.
So then I think just not so long time ago, I found out, wait, I do have these thoughts. And what happens if I see them as a friend who's telling me about their shitty day? Or as some part of me that actually tried to help me survive in certain situations. Like being like, oh, yeah, I hear you. It's not true for me right now anymore, but thank you for your good intention. So, like, we're alchemizing the thought that we actually want to run away from, or that's like maybe the voice of our mother or father, and by being like compassionate towards them, and then it just shifts. And it's not like stressing me subconsciously out anymore, but it's like more loving in a
Yeah.
way.
I think our thoughts are not ours anyway, to begin with. Some of them might be, but I would say the majority is 90%. It's not even belong to us. It might be very, how do you call it? Surreal kind of concept I want to explain right now. But I do believe the brain works like an antenna, and we just pick up some thoughts. And I believe thoughts are physical. I believe that thoughts are just traveling around and we pick them up if we are open or not. And depends also which frequency we are inside of ourselves. And I'm pretty sure this is the case. And music somehow proves that to me. Sometimes I'm thinking about songs, I'm thinking about stuff that I have no idea how it came to me. And I just channel it down. It's just like I have something in my head, and I just, all right, how can I write it down? Like someone downloaded a song into my head, and now I'm hearing it.
Someone downloaded a song into your head.
Exactly.
Sounds like inspiration to me.
Yeah, it comes from nowhere. You can call it inspiration. You can call it intuition. You can call it um, thoughts, whatever. And it's like a piece of information that all of a sudden became available for me.
Yeah.
And now I can use it or not. And if you look at it for everything that you think, this is just another piece of information that is available for me to use it or not. I think that makes it everything way more easy. But then it's easy to talk about it. But once we think about something bad and our whole body starts to resist it, then it becomes physical and then it becomes real. And then it becomes challenging.
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing is like seeing thoughts as pieces of information that you can either accept or not accept. And I think it's really important to live as much as possible from this place of choice in our life, right? Someone comes to you and wants to do something with you, and I oftentimes people please, like, oh yeah, they're being nice to me, so I need to be nice to them as well. And then maybe I'm doing things that I actually don't feel like doing at all. But I maybe am afraid of hurting them, or like being rejected, or like, like fear of missing out, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being able to be like, oh yeah, I have this choice and I'm actually do what's true for me.
Yeah, this is a very fragile thing. What is true for me, I don't know if we can even put the finger over what is true for us. It's always changing.
Yeah, I think that's the point. We have a truth that's available to us in the now. We don't have a truth that's available for us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, they're very true. And about this truth, just 1 hour before you came here, I had a crazy headache. And I thought maybe we can postpone it a bit later. Maybe we do it another day. I really did not feel like doing any podcast. But now I'm really enjoying that. I feel a little bit of headache, but it's mostly low volume. And I really enjoy the conversation. And this is really interesting how things can change from one moment to the other. And also how people can influence. I'm pretty sure your energy is feeding my energy. And this is how I feel more refreshed.
hearing that, there's even some, like, I'm afraid to say it, because that's just what's happening. But like, hearing what you're saying, there's a part of me that's like, oh yeah, that's really nice to hear, like something being better since we are having this talk or something. But then there's this other thought side of me that's like feeling a bit almost like scared, or like, oh, I hope that this will stay like this then, like I hope my vibe doesn't change in a way that you will feel bad again or something. It's like very interesting for me to like observe this and like, oh, okay, so hearing that, apparently some part of me thinks I need to be a certain way now to provide this, whatever this is. Um,
Maybe by thinking about it, you will stop being how you were until this point, and
yeah,
then you will not provide it because you're thinking about, oh, I'm scared not to provide this space anymore.
maybe. And also, like, being true to this part of me right now that's alive
Mm-hmm.
is like, oh, I don't need you to change, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to go away. You can be there. And I allow you to be felt. Like, I'm not pushing this, oh, I don't want to feel scared right now, like, but really be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that is what puts people at ease. And going back to the ceremony of surrender is like surrendering to whatever comes up right now and not trying to be any different way because that's what we think people will like or whatever. And so in my ceremonies, I really advocate for people and for myself to show our vulnerabilities, because I really feel that's where healing lies. Like, I've heard another podcast where they said, so when we get triggered or when we get anxious, we usually go like in fight, flight, or freeze response. And that's actually responses trying to protect us, trying for us not to feel this vulnerability. It's like, oh, something's happening and I am defending myself because otherwise I might be hurt. And in ancient times, this makes sense because the real threats were like maybe some dangerous animals or whatever, real survival things. But if my best friend didn't understand me correctly and I feel frustrated and I feel fearful because they might not hear what I'm saying and I get defensive, I don't think that really serves us anymore. So instead of going into fight mode, they said it's better to like be there, attend, and allow that feeling to be there. And instead of moving away from the vulnerability, to actually lean into the vulnerability. And I think that links back to what you are saying about like not trying to avoid suffering, because we could say feeling vulnerable feels really scary because we're fucking vulnerable, but like really be there and be like, oh yeah, I feel vulnerable right now. I feel like you could basically take a knife and stab it into my heart because I'm just so open right now. But instead of protecting myself, I choose, again, from this place of choice, to be there and show you how vulnerable I actually am. And this creates intimacy and this creates healing.
Yeah. It's the relaxation that creates the healing, I think.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think how much stress we have that we're not even aware of. And it can be thoughts that we are carrying with us from childhood. And we don't have any clue that we carry this thought with us because we got so used to that. The most uh, accurate analog I can bring is if you, for example, sitting in your house and there is a fridge, for example, that is working, then you don't notice it until it stops.
I love that picture. Yes, yes. I can like literally feel the moment of like, oh, it's silent now.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize how noisy it was. Yeah, it's so true. It's like we don't know what relaxation actually feels like until we actually feel it. And then we're like, how could I live like this until now?
Yeah.
And think it's normal, right? Like think it's normal that we feel stressed.
Yeah, it's part of it. I think every animal feeling distress somehow. We are just very lucky that we can communicate and we can transform this information from one to another, and we can stumble on those ways how we can relax ourselves. Then it got even better and better with time. I think every animal have it somehow, but we as humans, we really brought it to a next level. For example, breath work. This is something that is very healing, and it can release a lot of stress. It's a bit different than meditation, from my experience, but it does something to the body. Breath work, when you actually go there, even if it's just to count 4 seconds for every breath, just paying attention and putting something in order, the body says, "Thank you, thank you for thinking about me."
Yeah, thank you for paying attention to me.
To the breath, it's also like a fruit sometimes. We have very shallow breathing, and we don't even pay attention to our breath. We just rush to do everything, and then the moment that we can just take a deep breath, all of a sudden, I needed it.
Yeah, I feel like I want to take a deep breath now together. Do you want to take a deep breath
Let's
together?
take a deep breath.
Okay.
I like to hold my breath.
Mm.
It feels like it expands my lungs, and then they're working more efficiently.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you say this because I feel like for me, meditation itself is, in a way, yes, there is benefits and there's like, things that change when we meditate more. But like, I do have friends who like meditate because then they can work more efficiently and then they can be better. And, it's like, yes, but then are you like really living the philosophy of it as well, which is like being and non doing, at least in Taoism? And it feels like, oh, I want to like go back to breath work because it's really, it has literally changed my life in many perspectives,
How did
like
you
many
discover it?
aspects. Mm, well, I think the first time I got in touch with breath work or pranayama was in yoga, through yoga. Mm, but really diving deeper into this kind of breathwork that I'm doing now, it's just intuition like brought me there. One time, I'm gonna tell a little story. Like I was, I think last year or something, beginning of the year, I was spending time at my parents' house, and I just came back from traveling. And there's always like these periods after traveling where I don't know what I'm gonna do next. So I thought I just gonna keep traveling, going to Portugal, and already like set up a ride and connected, going to some gathering. But then the first time I was about to leave, I got sick. Like my tooth really started hurting and I couldn't leave because I needed to go to the dentist. And I was like, okay, wait, I'll postpone it. So a few weeks later, I got another ride to Portugal as well. And I feel happy. I packed all of my things. I brought a little keyboard. I wanted to make street music. I have had all these ideas of what I wanted to do. And we actually got into the car and we started driving. And the next day, I woke up and I felt sick again. Like my body was literally telling me, no, you can't. Like, this is not the right way. Like, I need to get sick for you to listen to me. And I thought I had corona or something. I don't know. But I felt really bad. So I was like, okay, guys, you know what? Thank you so much. I'm going to go back home. And I packed all of my things and went back home. And so I was at home and I was like, okay, I surrender. I surrender to my body's intelligence and I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I stay at home and I was actually asking the universe for guidance. I was like setting an intention, being like, hey, listen, I understand now. This is not the way. It's okay. Please tell me what I need to do next. So I wake up in the morning and there's just like one word breathwork in my mind. And I was like, here's the answer. Thank you. And I remember that a friend of mine, Daniel Allen, he's like offering breathwork facilitating courses. The thing is, I've never done this kind of breathwork, which is like conscious connected breathing. And but I just like looked up in the internet and it said, okay, the next course starts in 3 days. I was like, perfect timing. So I called him up and I was like, hey, Daniel, I got the intuition that I should like participate in your breathwork course. And he was like, yeah, technically we're full, but one person kind of forgot that the training is starting in a few days. So we have a spot open. And I was like, great, this is really expensive. Can you give me some friendship price as well? And he was like, yeah, I can. And I was like, great. So all the things just aligned. And a few days later, I was sitting in the course and it was blowing my mind. We were breathing every day and already holding space for other people and also learning a lot of like little tools and how our mind works and about like shadows and patterns or da da da. And after this, I went out and was like, this is better than any ayahuasca experience I've had so far. Like, because like my intention is really to understand the little mechanics and the things in the subconsciousness of why do I feel like this? Why do I behave like this? Why do I make the choices like this? And feeling like going to ayahuasca ceremonies lots of times and also other medicines, I feel like there's so much happening. It's really difficult to integrate what I'm actually experiencing. Also because it's like really far off from what's happening in this body. So when I did my first breath work in the course, I was like, afterwards, my jaw literally fell open. I couldn't stop smiling because I was, yeah, that is what I was looking for. Something that's strong enough to open up to our subconsciousness, but not overwhelming. And we have the control, right? It's our breath. It's our own amazing magical portal to our subconsciousness. And if it's too intense, just breathe slower, Like it's like no chance of really being re-traumatized because there's things opening up that we can't handle. So yeah, that's how I ended up with breathwork and have been since then sharing this with this work.
Did you knew breathwork before that?
No.
No. You woke up, you had it in your mind somehow?
Yeah.
Crazy. And what was the actual practice that you did that really opened you up for the breathwork and made you realize how impactful it is on you?
So the technique itself is called conscious connected breathing, and originally it was invented or discovered by Stanislav Grof. he was, doing a lot of therapies with LSD, up until the point until it was like forbidden, illegalized. And so he was searching for a way for people to tap into these states of consciousness without needing to break the law. And he observed a certain way of breathing that his patients were doing while they were in those states of consciousness. So he thought, well, if we can try to imitate this breathing patterns, then maybe we can access these states. And that's exactly what happened. And this is how holotropic breathwork came to existence. And the technique itself is really easy. I always say it in my ceremonies, like, how much can you do? You breathe in and you breathe out. Like,
How difficult can it be?
how can it's really simple. And that's what I love about it. Everyone can do it. Like, of course, if you have some like epilepsy or heart diseases, you maybe should be careful how you do it. Also, when you are older, it might not be as easy for you to deep this way. But like if you're healthy and fit, you basically just take deep in breaths into your belly, and without a break, you exhale, and without a break, you inhale. So it's like really easy in a way. And I think that's where it's important to know what to do with your consciousness as well.
Yeah.
Because if you just breathe like, you will definitely have some effects because your body reacts to this way of breathing. But it's really the attention and the surrender to the sensations that come up in your body and the focus that allows us to go deeper into the experience.
The actual breath, how intense is it when you breathe in and out? Is it your choice how to make it as intense? From my experience with breath work, the more intense the the more intense the breath that I do in and or out, the more intense my experience is.
Yeah, I think that's a common belief. And I think it's also connected to how our society is conditioned into thinking, like in order to achieve something, we need to work harder. Like we need to push more, we need to go more into that young energy that really like this doing.
Maybe I can refine it a bit more. There is also breathing that the whole point of the breathing is not to make any sound while you're breathing, to make it as silent as possible. And this is very gentle. Also, to make the breath as long as possible for the exhale or for the inhale. And it might sound easy, but I think to make it longer and longer and longer, especially when you take all the air out and then you need to breathe again,
Yeah.
the muscles want to, but it's like, oh, slowly.
Yeah.
And this is intense things. But to get into those realms of when I can somehow compare it to ayahuasca or to DMT or to any psychedelic experience, I noticed that the more intense the breath is, the more likely I can somehow access this state of mind. So I'm wondering when you talked about breath work, if you meant to access this kind of state of mind when everything gets psychedelic, or maybe it can be also very gentle kind of breath work.
Yeah, it's really important to know what you want to achieve, right? What your intention is with what you're doing. Like, how do you want to regulate yourself? Like, and the kind of breath work that I'm referring to, like this conscious connected breathing, it's really for me to let unconscious emotions, stuck emotions, thinking patterns, behavioral patterns, belief systems come into the light. It's not necessarily to have a crazy intense trip, like you would have if you take acid, for example, but more like getting more in touch of your subconsciousness. And it can be that you have a very spiritual experience, but it's not really about having another kick or like something that's like, wow, it's stimulating. For me, like, this is not what I want to provide. There's nothing wrong about it. Like, I think psychedelic breath is aiming towards like, oh yeah, I want to have a psychedelic experience. In a way, everything is psychedelic. Okay, so this would be very generalizing right now. In it, to stay with the train of thought, the intention is to get more in touch with your inner world. And so there's not this need to be like hyper up. It's just enough up in the state of trance so that you can access it. And to reach that point, it doesn't really matter if you breathe very strongly or very softly. It's more having a balance between the energy. So the more you breathe, the more energy you have, and the awareness of it. You can breathe as strongly as you want, and if you have no awareness, this is gonna be probably more like yeah, intense experience, definitely. But there's not like this transformational aspect of it. And so it's like, okay, we need to have enough time to feel what's actually happening, to be able to observe what's actually happening in our consciousness, to transform it. Again, that the attention goes and energy follows, right? So if we can shine the light enough on the things that want to be seen, that are in the darkness, this is where the transformation happens. So we need to reach a certain level of energy to be able to see those things, but then we also need a certain level of focus and consciousness to realize these things, because without realization it's just energy.
Do you keep the breath in a circular kind of motion?
Yeah.
And then you get into kind of trance. Is it a thing that you need to do for a while, and then slowly you arrive to this place where you can really dissect all the stuff that's coming up and see what's going on?
Yes, I think the most important time to like really, so it's like activation energy, maybe if you want to look at chemics or something. It's like you need to reach this point, and then everything is like, okay, it's flowing. And then even if you just breathe less or something, nothing will change really. That much you're already there. And before that, I kind of forgot what the question was. I'm sorry. I was like getting into chemics and something like, well, what?
I'm thinking, how do you access this state?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not about the intensity of the breath. It's more about how long you do it, and slowly you start to tune in.
Okay. It's both. Like, you breathe, right, for 15 to 20 minutes, and then usually you already get into this thing. The thing is, set and setting is also very important. We need to feel safe to be able to let go, to open ourselves up. So all the ceremony that's happening before that is like preparing the space, preparing our bodies, preparing our hearts and minds to go into that state of like, oh, now I can surrender. And so it's not only about breathing, but also about everything else, the frame, if you want to say.
Yeah.
And then also for myself, when I attend a breath work, it's like, okay, the frame is there. I go into that. My consciousness knows, okay, we're going to do breath work. And I can, like, I don't even need to breathe in a certain way very strongly or whatever, or very long. I just go into this trance state after 30 seconds or something.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything like this. When you do for a while in life, you can access it immediately once you master the skills of doing it and you feel confident doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, I can take a guitar in any moment and play, and it will be amazing.
I believe that.
And sometimes that's if I'm doing it every day. But if I'm not playing, let's say for a few months, then I'm taking a guitar, it will be a bit rusty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is the access. Yeah, it's interesting how much breath can heal us or poison us. Sometimes I can speak for myself. Sometimes I noticed more when I was younger than now than that I tend to hold my breath and to keep it inside and not to let go. Yeah, it's so important, the breath. It can tell so much about us and about the people around us. If you're with friends, then pay attention to how they breathe. You might notice something that you don't notice about those people if you just notice the breath. And maybe it can give you new insights about how they live their lives. I have a friend that I really love, and he got the most low and shallow breathing that I know. And I love him every time that I'm next to him. It's the best reminder to take a deep breath. Yes, it's incredible how breath is it's the glue of everything.
Yeah.
Do you also combine it with the cacao? Do you combine both of them together?
Yeah. Cacao.
Cacao is also very powerful. We think about cacao, oh, we eat Nutella, but no, this is not the same cacao.
No, it's not the same cacao. I mean, in a way it is, but like
In a way, yes.
more pure and raw. Yeah.
Different effects on the body as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because like raw cacao, as the name says it, it's not processed, right? It's not being heated over a certain point of temperature, so it keeps lots of the properties that have a really magical and beautiful effect on our bodies and
Yeah.
consciousness. Yeah, like the chocolate that we get in the stores or something, they're like highly processed. And I think, no, in Berlin, actually, if you go like to those organic shops, you can actually find
Yes.
raw cacao.
There is two companies that I really appreciate. Vivani is one of them. They make the best. Even the cacao with sugar they have, like the normal chocolates, they're really good. And there is another one, I forgot their name. Maybe Good Beans or something like this. I'm not so
Good
sure.
mood? No.
No, they have this.
This is not paid advertisement, right?
No, I wish. I wish. Maybe a bit later in the life of the podcast. The second one is also very good. It's twice the price of the Vivani. But I remember I looked it up once on Amazon and it was half the price they sell it. So I just bought stocks of this cacao.
Wow. Do you have some here?
No, it was a long time ago. Now it's expensive again on Amazon.
Oh, they were like, oh, people found out. Maybe it's not that expensive.
Yeah, and those cacaos are different. They're different for those who never experienced with cacao. I think the moment they will try it, that they will feel relaxation.
Yeah.
It's relaxation and it's heart opening.
Yes.
It's cozy. How do you experience cacao?
Well, cacao has been in my life in this way. I mean, I've always loved chocolate, but
In a secret way.
I still like chocolate. But like in a ceremonial way, I think like also 5 years ago or something, maybe 4. And back then I was like, okay, why are we doing this exactly? But over the time, I kind of became more sensitive to the effects of it. And I love it so much because it just puts me right back into my heart. And so there's like this quote of Rumi. Maybe you know it. I always get the last bit a little bit, I think, wrong. But it says like your path is not to seek for love, but to seek merely the barriers that you have built to against love or something. So it's like we are love, but because of all of our hurtful experiences, we've built up these defensive so we don't feel this pain anymore. And I always see like, okay, we have the heart. The heart is open by itself by default when when we arrive in our bodies, but like in our childhood things happen and it's painful and maybe we don't have the tools or the possibilities to actually heal when we experience the pain, so we learn different behaviors or reactions, and these are like walls that we start one by one by one by one, like stones putting in front of our heart to protect us from feeling the pain. And I think cacao really like activates the heart, and it shines a light on all these walls that we have built around us, and allows us to actually re-experience what it actually means to feel loved, to feel love from ourselves. And it gives us like a choice to be like, well, I mean, of course, like everything that you use at some point it will stop the effect, right? But then you can be like, oh, what's different now? Like basically trying to integrate what you have felt while you were being with cacao and seeing what is stopping you from receiving or allowing love in. And yeah, so this is how it really goes well together with the breath work, because I this is what I'm living for. It's like for people to see, be compassionate with the pieces of walls, and then with love dissolving them so there can be actually more love energy flowing between us and for oneself. So yeah, this is, I'm really grateful for, yeah, for the ancient traditions that keep this kind of wisdom and knowledge um, on ceremonies and the sacredness of things, so that we actually in our Western world, which is oftentimes far away from sacredness or spirituality, can have access to this wisdom and integrate it into our lives. You know, like we don't need to live how they have lived or are living. Saying indigenous tribes or people is a better word, indigenous people. Um, but we can use the knowledge in honor and respect to how they used it, and then like integrate it into our lives, like for example using it with breath work, or some people use it with yoga, or you know, like just make something new out of it without losing touch to the original meaning of it, which is to connect.
Yeah, cow is connective. Yeah, I like the idea of mixing things together to see what is working for us.
Mm.
And it's important to do it because sometimes we might discover something that we could no one discovered or we could never discover it without this experimenting.
Mm.
I did a lot of experimentations with microdosing
Mm.
and it was a crazy experience. I did with mushrooms, psilocybin, and with LSD. And people think microdosing is less, but it depends how long do you take it for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it can be very intense. This microdosing, it starts slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and the more you continue doing that, the more it gets intense, but not in a way that you're tripping, because you know what's going on around you. You can talk, you can understand speech. Everything is normal, but it's still crazy. It's very difficult to describe how it feels. But when you mix it, when I mixed it with other things in my life, it gave
Mm-hmm.
me a lot of benefits. And it was before it was start to be really researched. I think
Mm-hmm.
today it became very trendy now.
Mm-hmm.
Microdosing. Oh, I need to have more. Hack
Mm-hmm.
biohacking. I need to
Mm-hmm.
hack my bio and hack everything so I do microdosing. Yeah, but it's cool. In some periods of my life, it was very cool.
Yeah.
And also combine that with microdosing of weed. So it's just like one puff and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that combined with cacao somehow put me in a very good balance of not being too high or um, too dreamy,
Yeah.
because the cacao is also grounding for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also give me energy and focus.
Yes.
And the focus that I can also receive from the weed and from the microdosing, and somehow they balance each other. It felt like I'm a sharp knife. That's how it felt for me. I
Mm.
could attack everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable for a while. It's good for maybe 2 months. I think somewhere in the 2 months, this is where the microdosing becomes way too crazy for me. And
Mm.
I never dared to continue more than that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It's like full trip, but everything is normal. It's very difficult to explain that.
It's like a long trip.
Kind of, yeah. Everything is psychedelic around you. Did you ever try to do microdosing?
Mm. Yeah, I think like it's also just information, right? It's like a little bit like homeopathy. It's like you don't have the full dosage of something, but
Yeah,
just like one piece of information is already stimulating your system into like, oh, this is what's happening now.
yeah. And the microdosing can be so little that you don't feel any effect or being high at this moment.
Mm.
I do believe that also LSD is mushrooms, and I'm pretty sure the mushroom itself produces the molecule. It's this mushroom or the fungi that grows on this
Mm.
what's called algot, I think. It's a kind of a grain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the original LSD is
Yeah,
from the
exactly.
grain. Yeah.
And I do believe mushrooms, they do some stuff in our bodies. I mean, there are mushrooms. Look at them. They're taking over and they start running in the most efficient path, to use the most out of everything they have in front of them.
Mm.
And a little bit with little bits, I think it changes how the brain actually functions.
Yeah.
And it can be very productive, and it can also be a good seed to put into our minds if we know what we're doing, of course, if we got our shit together. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't recommend any of this to
Yeah, this
anyone.
is not a recommendation.
But if you know your shit, and if you're stable and you want to enhance your thinking, I think it's a great place to put some seeds into the ground and the garden of the mind while being on
Hmm.
microdosing.
While being on microdosing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this time it's like more meditations, more manifestations, a lot of journaling as well.
Mm.
And just to be there, I believe the mind is becoming very open. It's even deeper than the mind. I think it's the actual brain that is being rewired in those states.
Hmm. Yeah. The neuroplasticity really
Yeah,
goes up, right? It's like how it's like our the highways in our brains actually become moldable and like something
Yeah.
that we've done like 20 years, like this, and it becomes solid, suddenly becomes more fluid, and we can actually change the highways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And like change the ways that we behave and react to things.
Yeah.
So it gives us more space to choose how we
Exactly.
actually want to be here or do things in the world.
Yes. And there is another mushroom. It's called lion's mane. You heard about it? It's remarkable. It's like magic. Basically, what it does, for those who don't know, these mushrooms help you grow new neurons in your body, in your brain. It helps the connection. It
Yeah.
helps people who have Alzheimer.
Yes.
And you need to take it at least 1 month for it to start to affect, at least for my experience. And once it's there, it's like having a super mind. It's like upgrading the CPU in my brain.
Yeah.
Combining this with microdosing, and if you combine it also with vitamin D, this is great combination to have. And this I heard from Paul Stemens, who is a mushroom expert. If you know him, if not, go search him. He's really remarkable.
Yeah. Wow, it seems like you have a lot of experience with mushroom or like interest in mushrooms as well,
Yes.
right? Mushrooms are great.
Mushrooms are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're not plant, but they're not a tree, a human, sorry, or a living thing.
Yeah.
But it is living thing, and it's very intelligent.
Yeah.
It's so weird, mushrooms.
Hmm.
I really don't understand how people know mushrooms exist and they don't suspect that life is strange or something like this. And they just go to the supermarket, they buy mushrooms, they
Yes.
don't care. Oh, it's normal mushrooms.
Normal. Yeah, mushrooms are just mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh, just chop them, put it in my omelette. But to think about this, what the fuck? This is crazy. The mushrooms that we are seeing is the fruit of the whole body, which is the mycelium.
Yeah.
And the mycelium, it can be everywhere. And it's so intense. It just grows in conditions that we think are not. No one can live in those conditions. Mushrooms can still survive there. And this guy, Paul Stamens, is also saying that it's possible that we came from mushrooms.
We came from mushrooms.
Yeah, somewhere back then, back in the old days, there was a molecule that splitted, and somehow it became the life form that we know today.
So we are basically part of the big mycelium that's happening.
Yeah, probably, and it makes sense. It makes completely sense because the mushrooms in our gut, this is what basically control our mood. The mushrooms and the bacterias, if it depends on the mushrooms. And usually people who are depressed, it's because they don't have good gut bacteria. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I do know that the gut is so important. It's like our second brain.
Yeah. And also know that most of the serotonin that is produced in your body is coming from your guts.
Ooh, be gentle to your belly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Listen to your belly.
Don't eat so much.
Don't eat so much shit. Or sometimes it's okay.
Yeah, it's good. We need also to feed our mental stomach.
Yeah. It's really the balance of gut, mind, the rest of our body, emotions, our heart. Right?
Yeah. I think the gut got the most impact. And I think this is why a lot of people are miserable today. Yeah. And they don't even know that. They have no clue that they are miserable because they go to the supermarket, they buy food, they think it's good food, but it's not.
Okay.
And I think most of the food, I would say, very general.
Yeah.
It depends on which supermarket you go, but let's take the average Lidl. 80%, 85% of the stuff they're selling there, it's completely shit. And it's not need to be consumed in any way, in my opinion.
So what do you eat?
I eat mostly meat, and the meat comes from a very good source that I trust. And I know that it was happy chickens, and I know it was happy cows or happy whatever. Best would be to have to have a hunter who can do and hunt the meat itself. And this is what works for me the best for my body and my composition and how my body wants to digest stuff. I tried to be vegan for a while. It did not really work. My body doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And then it was when the moment I realized about wild pigs and I ate their flesh and I just felt energy
Yeah.
and it felt good. And I had this idea in my head that meat is not good for me. And it was true because every time I ate meat, I felt
Because it was
sick.
so shitty quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the meat, it was the milk, it was the cheese, it was the eggs. All
Yeah.
those stuff, they're just shitty quality. Because
Yeah.
how good can you feel when you eat a chicken that could not move even a meter?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole mini meat industry is like so fucked
Yeah, but it's not only the meat industry, it's everything that it's been industrialized, you know?
Yeah, I think it's really valuable to find out what works for you, right? Like
Yes,
to really listen to your body, listen to your gut, and observe what is actually good for you and feel it, right? Well,
yeah,
if you don't feel it, how would you know, right?
exactly.
And like for me, like I haven't eaten meat for like quite some time, and that's also because it's like more ethical. Like I don't feel like I have access to meat that easily, that I feel like is ethically like that I can ethically support, um because I don't know if anything, killing anything would be something I could ethically support, but also like just my body being like, no, actually I don't feel like I want to eat meat, like
Yeah,
it's like really just and honoring your truth, even if it's like something that people don't like or people like. It's
yeah,
like if it works for you, it works. If you have a clear conscience, if you can live with it, then yeah, go for it. And I think that's again this not being in resistant what is your truth in this
exactly.
moment. It can be tomorrow you wake up and suddenly your body's like, oh, I can't digest any meat anymore, right? And then you would not be like, oh, or I assume, I don't know if it's true, but I imagine you to be someone who would be like, oh yeah, I go with what's happening, I go with the flow, I go with what feels good, and I don't like be dogmatic about something. So maybe tomorrow I wake up and suddenly I want to eat a deer, I don't know, and I'm like, okay, well, I surrender to this feeling, right?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone is so different. We cannot really follow any group and believe what this group is believing. It's
Yeah.
our belief as well.
Yeah, it's really finding your own
Yes,
truth.
and also fuck all those people who tell you what to eat. Fuck those
Yeah.
people to tell you eat meat, be vegan. Fuck everybody.
Yeah.
And also, if you tell yourself that you need to be a certain place, fuck you. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking that you just need to go and see what is good for you and how your body reacts. But what I would be dogmatic about it, and that would be the best value someone can have, is to make sure that any source of food is coming from a good source. And the best would be if it's coming from the area that you're living in. But second best, if it will be as organic as possible. It doesn't have to be bio, like with the stamp itself, but it needs to come from a place that did not really poison the whole soil, just to make some stuff grow that looks beautiful.
Now that when we're talking about this, like how to have a happy and long life, right? Basically saying like, okay, the gut is determining how happy we feel. I am remembering a book that I read called Ikigai.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know the philosophy, but like it's finding just the thing that's like your purpose, or like that what lights you up and what actually serves the bigger good,
Yeah.
but this is not what I'm going for. And what I'm going for is like there's a chapter of where they actually explored the places where there was longevity, is that, yeah, longevity.
Yeah.
And 99% of the people who lived more than a certain age, I think it's more like 95 or something, 99% of these people had their own garden.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. You work, you move your body,
Yes.
then you eat the best quality you can ever ask for.
Yeah.
How bad life can be when you have
Yeah.
this
And also community.
in
Having
community.
a
Yeah,
sense of purpose
very
in your
true.
community. This feeling of being needed, right? That feeling of to matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to help others.
Mm.
Yeah. I have a friend that I was living in his place in North Byron for maybe 2 months, 2.5 months. And he was growing the cucumbers. He had like a greenhouse and he was growing cucumbers and some zucchini and also those cherry tomatoes. That was the most tasty cucumber I ever ate in my life.
I mean, all the love that goes into it.
Yeah, everything. I never thought a cucumber can be sweet and crispy.
You only had the soggy and tasteless cucumbers.
Usually it's like that, yeah. Or maybe if you're really lucky, it's
Yeah.
fermented and pickled. Then you have a bit more. But
Yeah.
damn, this cucumber was so tasty. And also
Mm.
the cherry tomatoes were delicious.
Wow, just listening to you talking
Wow.
about it, there's like saliva in my mouth coming together. Oh, I would like to eat.
This whole village was very beautiful. They also had once a month, they had this like a village market. And I remember it was one truck. They came from a goat farm.
Mm-hmm.
So everything they had was products of goats.
Mm.
So you had all the cheeses and you had all the meat and you had also milk. And the milk there, they must pasteurize it. Pasteurize. They must
Mm.
pasteurize it, which means they heat it for a little bit. But usually they don't heat it for a while, just the minimum they're really required to do. And that was the most tasty milk that I ever drank in my whole life. It was
Mm.
so good, I could taste the hay.
Hmm.
That how much details this milk had. It's like ultra 4K milk.
4K milk.
Yes.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nowadays, I just make my own oat milk.
that's the best. If you can make it yourself, do it.
Sure, it's so easy. Like, I was always buying it in cartons, but then a friend of mine was like, why don't you just make it yourself? And it's like the most
Yeah.
easy. If you want a recipe, look it up. It's so easy. Like,
You just grind it with water, right? What
yeah,
do you do?
you can put some dates in it if you
Yeah,
want some
true.
sweet with it, but then you just like seep it, like you take out the crumbles, and that's it.
Yeah, I used to also make it myself. And then you just have this, what it's called, this fabric, the
Mm-hmm.
cheesecloth.
The cloth. Yeah.
Yes, and then you squeeze everything,
Yeah.
and then you're left over with this. I don't know how you call it, but you can make cookies out of it. What it's called, the
Oh,
leftovers of
yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good idea. I
Oh
never
yeah.
thought of that.
Yes. I thought how you can use everything there. I thought to make a business out of it. I thought, oh, this is so easy. And usually it's way better than what you buy in supermarkets. Sometimes they put weird conservatives.
Yes.
Conservatives? Yeah.
Yes. I think, yeah.
Yeah, some weird chemicals. And then it's like, oh, I'm healthy. But then, no, you're not healthy because you're drinking all this shit with the heifer drink or whatever it is. It's very important to notice what we put in our stomachs and
Awareness, right?
awareness, yeah, and don't go into any kind of this is not you, like not you, Manisha, but you, the people who are listening. Yeah, don't go with any trend that you think that can be good. Don't go with the vegan trends or eat meat trends or whatever. Just find
Try
some.
it out, right?
Yeah, just go yourself to some farms and see what they have to offer. Also, it's very important, I think, to get it locally because you get the what is actually happening right now. If the trees of apples are giving fruit, then we eat the apples. If it's not time, we don't eat apples. We eat something else.
Yeah, like sticking to the seasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we eat something from the area around us, we get information about what's going on in the area.
Yeah, so true.
It's very subconscious, but it's there, and we feel more connected.
Yeah.
And it's small steps, but if we take those small steps, it gives us a big image of good life in the end.
Yeah, and it comes back to being connected to the land around you again,
Yeah.
right? Like locally where you are and finding back what it means to be part of nature and connecting with that again. It's like even if you eat um I don't know, herbs that you find on this like next to the street. Okay, maybe don't eat it because there's like dogs running around.
Not in Berlin for sure.
Yeah, but like, I mean, yeah, you could go to forests and go look for herbs that are growing in your local place and eat it, and you're eating part of the soil
Yeah.
that is, yeah, your home, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and this is the right way, in my opinion. But
yeah,
what is the right way? This is the harmonious way, I would say.
yeah, the natural way,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
yeah. To be vegan and then to eat Beyond Meat or something like that. Come on, you want to eat meat or not? You need to make a decision.
yeah, it's so interesting, like becoming clear on one own's values as
Yeah,
well, right? Like, oh, is it important for me to eat locally, or is it important for me to be healthy, or, like to really find out what is your value? I think that's
yeah. It's very
changes.
difficult to stick to it when you have a group of people who are your close friends and they have different value maybe than what is good
Yeah,
for you.
yeah,
And it's not easy, if let's say all your friends are eating meat and you don't feel like eating meat,
yeah.
and then you maybe might be afraid that they will not be your friends, or they might say some jokes about you. Or,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think so. I'm really a fan of this conversation right now because, like, we have different values,
yeah,
but we come from a place of love and acceptance for the other person. Like, I don't need to change you, and you don't need to change me, and
yeah,
that's why we can coexist and create something that's of value. And I think that's like for me how we create peace,
yeah,
like also with myself. I don't need to change something in myself right now. I can accept all the parts of me, so I'm not at war with myself. And when I'm not in war with myself, I don't need to be in war with someone
yeah,
else.
exactly, exactly. This is the most true things that can be ever said. If you're peace with yourself, that's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes when people are not peace with themselves, and sometimes it's us. Sometimes
Of
it's other
course.
people. When it's
Yeah.
us, we don't feel like it, but when it's other person, it's very obvious that we just go and we want to ask them something, and they all of a sudden become very tense, and it's only in their heads. But if they were a bit more peaceful with whatever they felt at the moment, then they might have a different reaction towards us. And sometimes we are like that as well.
Yes, of
And we give
course.
ourselves so many excuses why we can behave like that. It can be a long day. It can be that I don't know. We don't have enough money for the month. It can be a partner that
Yeah.
we had an argument. But it doesn't matter. No one cares.
I mean, it's all humane in a way, right?
Yeah,
Like, no one is perfect, and that's not the goal. Like, we can strive towards perfection, but
it doesn't
we are
exist.
already perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's both, right? We are already perfect, and we can still grow. Like, a plant is already, like, a tree is already perfect, and then maybe it gives fruits. But then at some point, it doesn't give fruits anymore, and it's still perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just really like I wrote I don't know I improvised a song about being a tree once, and I just loved it because like it's so true,
Wow, being a tree. What is it about? Would you like to play this song actually? Do you feel like playing music afterwards?
I
Pressure, pressure, pressure.
it's like so this is again the part of being true to oneself, right? I need to be really honest with me here,
Yeah.
right? And there is definitely a part of me that's like wanting to present my musicality, my voice, like my how I am as a musician. There's all these parts, and I see them, and they're lovely. And also, there's a part of me that feels maybe a little bit more authentic. That's like I don't feel like playing music today. And there is definitely a fear of like, if I say this, who is gonna be disappointed? Am I gonna be, like all these things. But like, if I really stay with this and like living my truth, as uncomfortable it might be for myself and others, um, I think on the long term, it makes me more happy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I like it. I wish people would be more honest.
Mm,
This is something that I really appreciate, honesty.
mm,
Even though it's sometimes not so nice and not so
mm-hmm,
soothing,
mm-hmm.
but it's very valuable.
Yeah, this is wow, a journey for life for sure. Like
Yes,
being
yes.
honest with myself and others and sharing, like actually saying, I'm sorry. Like I don't know. No, I'm sorry. I'm being truthful and this is something to be grateful for.
Yeah,
Right? It's a gift if you can have someone who's in their truth. For me, at least, it's like, oh, then I can trust you fully that what you're saying is actually your truth, right? So, like saying, I don't feel like being here with you right now. I don't feel like spending time with you right now. I don't feel like having that chit chat right now. It's like, oh my God, like all the parts of me that want to please are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like they're gonna leave you forever and then you're gonna be alone forever. But like, still, like, this is my truth. And I don't say it because I want to hurt you, right? I say it out of love to myself and thus love to you as well, because I'm not pretending to be something or feel some way that I don't, just to maybe make you happy. I don't even know if it makes you happy, right?
yes. And this is a big gift. Also, once we implement this behavior and we really radiate it outside and we start using it, we can filter those people who want the best for us and those who just wants to confirm themselves through us.
Yeah.
And it happened to me with some friends that I had, and I realized the more I'm stepping into myself, the more uncomfortable they start to feel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very strange situation to be in, because on the one hand it's a good friend, and you're
Hmm.
thinking to yourself, this person really matters to me, and we've been through a lot. But then on the other hand, it's also good to understand that it's okay, the time has passed,
Oh, yeah.
and this relationship did what it's supposed to do. And it's like after Christmas, you had a tree, it's been used, and now we throw it to the street.
Oh. It feels sad in my belly, like, oh, it's used now, let's change it. More like maybe, oh, we're going different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, it might be easier to have this
You're going
idea.
to the trash now. No, yeah, maybe they're also starting to like, yeah, there's some truth to it. Definitely, like letting go of relationships that where we don't where we can't be ourselves anymore,
Yeah.
because I mean it's also understandable. Change is scary.
Yes.
Leaving comfort zones is scary. So if you know someone for years and they start changing, of course all the parts in you that are used to the comfort in the way they used to be will be like, don't change, don't change, this is scary, I don't want to feel scared,
Yeah.
right? And then it's really, you understand, okay, this friend can't really love me as I am anymore because they're scared, right? And it's not their fault because we all get scared sometimes. But then maybe it's not resonating anymore.
Yeah. There
And
is no
letting go
harmony.
is so difficult, like,
Yeah. It's very
right?
difficult.
Because we also all have these parts that go, oh, I don't want to change. I want you to be my friend. We've shared so many experiences. Yeah. I
But it's
think that's,
important.
yeah, that's really a very difficult theme in people who step more and more into their truth. It's like actually realizing, wow, I've been living a life, maybe some for some more, for some less, but like there is this change component of like, yeah, change,
Must
right?
be a change.
There must be a change.
Yeah, unless you're dead, and then you don't change. But also after you're dead, you're changing. Like
Yeah.
it's always changing. And I think also sometimes because we try to please people that don't want us to be who we truly are,
Mm,
this is a cause of a very big stressor.
yeah.
And I can tell it from myself the moment I start to give less and less fucks about what people think about me. it became very beautiful, and life
Yeah.
became very beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is a difference between being an asshole and being in your truth, right? I mean, sometimes we do need to be assholes, you know, like I need to be bitchy sometimes. I need to be able to express how unsatisfied I am with this moment right now. But like, maybe not always. And so it's like really, oh, trying to stay in a soft place. Like, of course, we need to know our boundaries and being able to express them, but like, it's a process of understanding that we can be soft and still have our boundaries. And really, softness. I mean, I'm all soft today. I'm dressed in really comfy clothes.
Yeah, you're very fluffy, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I just love softness, and I really believe that softness is what's gonna, in the end, connect us more. Like, you know, when you're lying in bed with your loved one and you're just like so cozy and you feel like there's nothing that's wrong. Feel so soft, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing to be scared of. Or even if there's something that we're scared, we can share with this person because we feel so trusting. And I really want to bring this feeling more to wherever I go. And it's not easy because I wasn't taught to be soft to anyone, not to myself, not to my parents. There was a lot of like, defensivenesses. So, like, I think what I want to say is like, yes, living our truth and be the way we need to be in a certain moment, but like remember that we don't need to fight. Um, or most of the times we don't need to fight, right?
It's funny that you finished with fighting. Like we don't need to fight, and the thoughts that I had while you were talking about being soft is that I think us as humans we need two skills that we master, and then life can be very easy, or we can have most of the stress being gone. First skill is to know how to make money. It's important. At least enough money so we won't be stressed not having money.
Yeah.
The moment we have enough money, or let's say we have 20% every month more than we need, it takes a lot of stress out.
Mm.
The second thing is to know how to fight. And I'm saying that because I started to practice jiu-jitsu 3 years ago, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Do you know this?
Yeah.
And it was a friend of mine started to do that. And then also a lot of friends from my circle are practicing jiu-jitsu. And I realized, well, first I realized when I started to do that I have no idea how to fight. And if someone wants to fight with me, probably they will do whatever they want.
Mm.
And I realized that because people there just did whatever they want with me. The goal of jiu-jitsu is either to choke someone or to break their arms, legs. But it's not really breaking or choking. So, but that's the idea. That's the goal of it. And every time I was just tapping out again and again and again and again and again.
Mm.
Like really have no idea what to do there. And with time, I started to become better and better. And then I felt my confidence start to
Mm.
rise.
Yeah.
And it's a different confidence when you know you can protect yourself physically.
Yes. You start,
Sometimes I notice where I want to approach people, or even when I'm just in the street walking, some people are walking around me, and I start to have sometimes this anxiety. What if they're violent? What if it will escalate somehow? And knowing that I can protect myself, it brings a lot of peace.
yeah, you start to feel safe in your body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, that's what I thought when you start to say soft.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest fighters and the most skilled fighters are very soft people. And I know some of them personally, and they're very soft and they're very
Yeah.
fluffy personality, but they can fuck you up, you know?
Yeah.
And it's usually like that. It's usually like that. The most powerful people who really are powerful, they're very soft.
Powerful in strength now.
Yeah, like physical strength or mental strength, not in a position of power.
Yeah. Interesting thought.
Did you ever tried to do some martial arts?
Yes, I did do some kickboxing classes and also like boxing. And I think what it did for me is like it brought me into contact of my strength, of my basically power, like what you said. It's like the sense of like, oh, I actually am strong. I feel safe in my body. I can protect myself. And it's like I can set a boundary. And I think this is on a very physical plane, right? Like I am here in my body and I can fight myself. And I think this can be translated onto our emotional body as well,
Yeah.
or energetical body. It's like when there's something, someone is like, let's say they're like emotionally dumping their shit onto you, and you're like trying to like, it's basically they're boxing into your face with their emotions, and you're just like, well, they're suffering so much, so I need to be there for them. But they also be like, oh wait, I can't do this. And maybe to a certain degree, we can be that space, like depending on how much capacity you have. But knowing that capacity of like, okay, stop, right? It's like defending ourselves and creating more and more safety in our being. Yeah, I do really see that value. I think that's how you say that's like we are actually making space for us to feel soft.
Yeah.
It's like we are creating ourselves the safe space which allows us to be vulnerable because we know, okay, I can hold myself now. I can share vulnerably, and if there's no one else to hold me, I can still hold myself.
Yeah. And it's also about loving the person who's in front of you. If they want to hit you or to harm you, you can still love them and protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like a baby that is about to go to the street or something, and you just stop him from not doing it.
Right. Yeah, okay. I like that perspective as well. It's like, yeah, preventing them to do something bad
Yeah,
that they might regret.
because they don't know. If they would knew, they would not even go there.
Yeah, yeah, I really love the topic of boundaries and being able to say no and anger and how anger, can be used in a healthy way to protect ourselves, to allow ourselves to open up more in a way.
How would you use anger in this way?
Mm,
Anger usually it's very destructive emotion, or maybe the way it's been expressed, or the way society thinks about anger. Usually, it's very destructive force.
yeah. Yeah, I think it might be another big topic to start talking about right now. So I'm like, oh, I'm already gonna talk about anger in a different podcast. Actually, I was like, I don't think I want to go there right now.
No, we don't have to go there. I think people are very curious still. Maybe throw them a
It's
cracker.
good to not give everything at once. So
which podcast it's going to be. At least let's make some promotion for the other podcast.
Yeah, I will send the link when once it's online.
Hell yes. Yeah, how do you feel? We are 1 hour 45 minutes on
I
the
feel
podcast.
complete. Yeah. Do you feel complete?
Never. It's a work in progress. Are you facilitating some ceremonies?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
gonna do one in a cacao and breathwork ceremony in Berlin on the, I think, 4th of May.
4th of May.
Yes, which should be a Thursday.
I don't know if the podcast will be published before or maybe really close to the date.
Well,
But are you
if you're
doing it
lucky.
regularly?
I'm doing it when I'm in Berlin, but I will be traveling again. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram or like on Facebook. Yeah.
What can they search on Facebook?
I think
Just go on Facebook. You'll see Manisha there with cacao. Hey, you want to have a sip of my cacao? Let's breathe together.
Yeah, on Instagram my name is Manisha Manisha
Underline.
underline
Yeah.
healing. Yeah. You
And
can.
there they can see everything that you're about to do
Yes.
regarding to ceremonies.
Yes.
Cool. And where are you heading afterwards when you finish your time in Berlin?
I will maybe go to China, depending if I get a visa, and then spend some time in Taiwan and doing ceremonies there. And afterwards, I don't know if I want to come back to Berlin. Like, oh, Berlin is, yeah.
It's a
Maybe
love-hate.
life is calling me to more like South America again, or Central America. But that's all in the stars right now.
All right. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
I really loved how everything got open in this conversation. And we touched some stuff that usually I don't have the chance to present in the podcast since it's mostly with musicians. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed it. It felt very flowy and like things were closing circles, making circles, closing circles, and it felt very harmonious. Yeah. Thank you for this experience. And I hope that our listeners can take something that, yeah, inspires them or makes them reflect on some things, maybe.
Yes. And if anyone is still listening, I would like to know about it. If you can comment somewhere that I can see that you're listening to the podcast, it will be a great feedback. And also, if you liked what Manisha said and what she shared with us, go and comment in her Instagram. Yeah, leave some trace. We want to know that real people listen here.
Yay!
All right. Goodbye, people.
Bye.